Welcome to Woo Wednesdays. I'm your host, Mojo Medium. I am leading the next generation of spiritual guides to help others rise into the new paradigm of the divine feminine. And yes, I am not making any of that up. So, how are you today? We're going to get started with our good news only fortune telling card. We are going to close with our 3x3 angel card readings. And in the meantime, we're going to talk about some other stuff. So I want to say welcome to Allison, who's here with me today, and to everybody in the replay. Remember that if you're seeing this at any time, past, present, or future, it is for you. Okay, so Allison, you said that you've been busy with work and haven't been able to join me for a while. Are you going to be at the masterclass next week? Does that sound familiar? Did you register for that?
Don't recall.
I'm
And
sorry?
oh, I think so.
Yeah,
The three
three
things.
things. Yes, three things
Yes.
you could do right now so you can help more people. Yes, and
Yes.
so if you are seeing this before February 20th, 2025, you can join us for the masterclass as well. It is at the link in my bio on everything, and it's also if you go to the website. Nah, you can't find it there. So you'll have to email me, mojomedium@gmail, if you don't already have access to sign up for the masterclass. And I hope you will. So, all right, let's jump right in and get going on. I'm extremely preppy today with my shirt under a sweatshirt and my pearl earrings. I'm very preppy. I'm enjoying that. And of course, a heart for Valentine's Day because it's coming up. Oh my gosh, it's coming up in 2 days. I had no idea. Honest to God, I don't pay attention to such things. What's more important to me is that it is Black History Month, and I'm going to shout it out. I don't care who says what. All right. So we're going to do a good news only fortune telling card for you. I was inspired to create these cards several years ago when one too many people asked me, what terrible thing do I need to look out for? What horrible situation is going to befall me, and how can I be prepared for that? And that was when, excuse me, I'm multitasking here, so I may be not making any sense. There we go. I look a little bit brighter there. All right. Um, so the problem with that is if you are looking for the bad, that's what you find. And you really don't have to consciously do that because your mind, your brain is doing that for you already, always on the lookout for danger and checking out where that next saber-toothed tiger might be coming in to eat you. So, what you do want to do is look for the good, expect and anticipate the good. And that is what you will find because thoughts become things. And not only that, but in terms of brain science, your uh, your brain will also make dopamine, or some gland makes dopamine and endorphins for you when you are anticipating something with joyful excitement. Okay. So that's what these cards are for. Each card has a word or phrase that can only be interpreted as good news. And they are for you to have something specific to look forward to and to look for the good. And you want to strengthen that look for the good muscle while you're doing it. Because when you make a habit of looking for the good, you find a lot more of it. And that is just the truth, both intellectually, brain science wise, spiritually, and even consciously. It just feels better to look for the good. Hello, Melanie, and welcome. Okay, so here is something for you to look forward to in the next few days to a week, no matter when you might see this, right? If it resonates with you, it is for you. Ah, there we go. Travel. We've seen this one recently. Oh, I just noticed two other cards jumped out. Okay. I didn't see those before. So let me see what those are. Oh, never mind. They didn't jump out. Those are just my little bookends for the cards. No, it just feels silly. Okay, so travel. Let's look at this. We saw this again recently, so this is another time. Oh, interesting. Okay, so this is more like somebody else in your life is traveling. Um, Not necessarily unexpected, but maybe somewhat spontaneously. Something like, oh, this weekend, honey, I'm going to go do XYZ. And it'll be something that um, A, gives you time to yourself, and B, is good for that person as well. Something that brings that person happiness or joy or something fun. I love that. I love that feeling. So you're not going anywhere, but somebody else is, and you will be pleased to have time alone or time for them to be gone or out of your hair. And it'll be something fun for them. So that is what you have to look forward to in the next few days to a week. And I'm going to put these away and get on to our topic today. Melanie, I'm glad you're here. Melanie is a business astrologer, and she's quite brilliant with it. Astrology is something that I never learned because I already know more than the average person, but it's like this much more. I mean, I don't know a lot, but I am not of the kind of constitution that lends itself to learning complicated topics that are interesting to me, but not interesting enough to really dig into. Now, I did spend 7 years studying the Beatles inside and out. So I became an expert in that because they say if you study something every day for an hour for 7 years, you will be an expert. I'm an expert on the Beatles, as hand to God. Of course, that is absolutely worthless to anybody but me. And Melanie, on the other hand, is really an expert in astrology, which is a benefit to a lot of people. So that's awesome. And I appreciate you being here. I think y'all are going to be really interested in today's topic. And by the way, I just want to give you a little heads up. I'm shortening the show. And my dream is to have my own talk show, have an hour, have an audience, have interaction with the audience, have guests, interview people, because I love interviewing people. But for the purposes of this program and the work that I'm doing, I'm going to shorten the show. So I think a lot of people want to listen to a podcast or a little YouTube show for 15, 20 minutes, maybe 30. But if they see the time on, oh gosh, it's 45 minutes long. I don't have that kind of time. And so I'm giving you some little bite-sized chunks chewable chunks instead of a big buffet. Okay. All right. So let's get going on this. So a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, who is brilliant and special and fantastic. She's my business coach, business manager, and all around emotional support human. And I love her. Her name's Lindsay. And if you need an amazing business manager and coach and intuitive helper, she is virtuallylindsay.com. And that is Lindsay with an EY. So virtually, LINDSEY.com. And I always, always recommend her. She's amazing. She has a way of just like, she listened to me the first time we met. She listened to me for 5 minutes. She'd never met me before. Here's 5 minutes of my, bleh, word vomit about what I'm trying to accomplish in my business. And she goes, oh, okay. Well, you need to do this first, okay? Set that aside for later and then go on to this and this. I mean, just like that. She just sees the whole forest and tells you which tree to start with. She's amazing. Okay. So she told me about a podcast called the Telepathy Tapes. And I don't know how widely known these are. But here's what I've found with it. I've listened to maybe 4 episodes of it. I think it's 8 episodes, and then they've added some more into it. But essentially, I think you can get the gist in 8 of it. So it is a documentarian named Kai, a woman, who found out about this phenomenon that apparently an esoteric group of people have known about this. That may not be the right word. Anyway, it's an esoteric phenomenon in which non-speakers, people with autism who are not able to speak or who have limited speech, are telepathic. And now a lot of mothers, especially parents and teachers and caregivers, have known that their autistic family member or charge have been reading their minds for a long time. But it has this podcast has kind of given the whole thing a wider view. And so let me just tell you the bottom line. I do want you to know that it's being studied by, a real psychologist, but this is not the kind of thing that legitimate science will pay attention to. And yet, there is just no question that this is going on. So, bottom line is that there are non-speakers and limited speakers who have autism who communicate telepathically with everybody, with one another, with the people in their family. They can read minds. Some of them are overwhelmed with thoughts of others, especially out in public. Makes so much sense because it accounts for the overwhelm that so many autistic people experience. Um, so they're not like out of control, but they just are overwhelmed with all of this information going on around them all the time. So I think it's fascinating. I think it's wonderful. And here's the thing. The experience that these autistic people, they're not all children, some of them are grown, um, the experience that they have is very similar to my own. Now, clearly, I am a speaker, man. I talk all the damn time, and I'm not autistic that I know of. I could be, but I do have ADHD. There's some comorbidity there, brain science. But it is very similar to my own experience in terms of receiving information, doing psychic readings, and tuning into people who've passed away. Um, Communicating with my own guides and with all that is. And, the way that these people, these telepaths, talk about how things happen for them is just really, really, really similar. And they talk about a place that they just call the hill, and it's in their mind. And they go there to visit with their friends, their other telepathic friends. And they literally have friends around the world that they haven't necessarily met in public, but they're in this space. And one of them was described as he'd go and lie down and put pillows over his head to block out all the other distracting influences and noises and so forth, so that he could go to the hill and communicate with his friends. And it's just, it just, what's so cool about it is it's very much like the spiritual realm. So between lives, our lives between lives, and I know Aunt Alice and I have recommended the book Journey of Souls to you. And oh, Melanie, you recognize the book? Fascinating book. I just love it. And we can talk a little bit more about it. So the way that they describe their interactions, their telepathic interactions, and they talk about how everybody can do it, and the understanding of from Journey of Souls that I read about, which I highly recommend to everybody. It's about life between lives in the spirit realm, and my own experience, my own understanding of how things work, and my way of receiving information. It all matches. It all matches. And y'all, we are coming so much closer to being really, truly connected. There are people fighting it so hard because they just are not familiar with it. It's too scary. It's too weird. They're not even aware that there's so much better on the other side, right? And that's why I've started, I got the guidance to add in talking about politics and people who are digging in their heels and saying, no, 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 I don't want to share. No, 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 I don't want anything but what's for me. And then, what are you doing over there that's for me or it's not for me? And, all that stuff. People who voted for the current president of the United States, um, they're starting to understand now that this is not working either. They were misinformed to believe that the U.S. government, while it's providing a safety net, social safety net, and a financial safety net, that they thought that the government was somehow taking things away from them, and that they weren't getting their due, and that they wanted to be, like it used to be when my dad was the king of the house and he made the money and he made plenty of money. We lived just fine. And now houses are too expensive, groceries are too expensive. I want somebody to do something about it. And I know it's those poor people who won't work, and it's those Mexicans who are taking things away from me. And none of that is true. None of that is true. But they are still afraid. And so now they're figuring out, hey, these people are in it for themselves. They're not helping me. oh my God, what if I lose my health insurance, my social security? What if I lose the contracted funds that were supposed to come to me as a farmer? I invested in my infrastructure with the understanding that the USDA was going to reimburse me for half of those costs. And now those funds are frozen. How am I supposed to pay these bills? So, when you make a deal and the government says, yes, we are going to do this, they sign a contract with you. And yes, the Congress has appropriated those funds. And somebody just walks in and says, no, you can't have it. That's bullshit. And that's what people are starting to figure out. So, that being said, those people need to be helped into this new understanding. The whole concept of us being connected and being one is starting to be understood. And quantum physics is proving more and more and more every day about these connections and the network that we all are a part of. In fact, in the telepathy tapes that I was referring to, one of the moms of an autistic person says that she figured out that because of what her son had taught her, that thoughts become things in a way that now you and I, we know about thoughts become things. We've heard of Dooley, what's his first name? Yeah, who says thoughts become things, choose the good ones. Well, and that is in terms of, she was saying that her son, I think what it was, told her that, if you look at the mop in your hand, then how did that mop come to be? Well, somebody had a thought about it, had an idea. And this was one thing that I haven't ever thought of thoughts become things before in this way, which was very, very practical, very physical. Like, I need something to clean this floor and I'm tired of getting on my hands and knees. What if I put this scrub brush on a stick? Then I wouldn't have to get down on my hands and knees, right? Okay, so that's the thought, and it becomes a physical thing because of that. And usually I think when I think thoughts become things, I think about manifestation and law of attraction, and the way that I'm thinking is making this vibe line up. But to have it lead to an invention, I thought, oh, that's brilliant. This makes so much sense. And this lady didn't know anything about Dooley and thoughts become things. So making it kind of demystifies the idea. Now, okay, I'm using up a lot of time and I do want to get to talk to y'all a little bit. So let me just say one more thing about this. Um, to recap, there are telepathic people who are being studied but not by official science. Um, the way that they talk about how they do this and how they communicate and so forth, it's very similar to the way that I receive information and that I am psychic and know stuff. Okay. It also lines up with the book Journey of Souls, where it's life between lives in the spirit realm. Now then, of course, in saying all that, I lost my train of thought. Um, the concept of moving into this new paradigm is going to include better connection. That's been a big part of what I've been talking about for a while with the divine feminine. Divine feminine is about connection and community. And so I remember what I was going to say. And so with people having thoughts and sharing thoughts, then we start creating together. We create what we all want, what benefits all of us. And when people start to understand that, then they become eager to move into that. Okay, I'm post-religious, but I grew up in a Christian home. And so in the Bible, in the Gospel of John, the very first verse is, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. If you replace the word word with the word thought, it becomes, in the beginning was the thought, and the thought was with God, and the thought was God. Now, I don't even believe in the traditional sense of God or church God. But if you take that and think about a thought was what started the universe, the Big Bang came out of a thought, and thoughts are energy, and thoughts become things. It really starts to make sense. You can start to feel that network of energy that connects all of us. All right. Melanie, you've been nodding at several things, and I would love to invite your comments or questions if you have any.
Yes. So I have Journey of Souls. I got that book a few years ago. And I just didn't feel called to read it. So I'm going to
Oh,
be reading
really?
it, I think, in Pisces season. Um I
Now,
I
why
don't
Pisces season? Why does that make a
um
difference?
well, I'm a Pisces moon, so Pisces season is like an inward time for me. I'm just kind of chilling, reevaluating the year before. And I feel very
Mhm.
spiritual when I go within.
Okay,
Aquarius
cool.
season, I'm like out here doing stuff. Um, but because we're in Aquarius season as well, I just watched the movie V for Vendetta last Thursday. I don't,
Hmm.
have you guys seen it? It's really good.
I've never seen it.
Came out in 2006. Natalie Portman is in it with Hugo Weaving.
Right. I'm familiar with it, but I just haven't seen it.
10 out of 10, cinematic masterpiece. Nothing needs to be changed. Complete perfection. But the
Really?
concept
Okay.
is this anarchist is against this British totalitarian government that is coming to power. I think it's supposed to take place in the year 2030 or something. And it has a lot of parallels to what we're experiencing right now, with basically, from my understanding, at least in this country, the billionaires and corporations are like buying out government agencies and closing them down. So I understand everyone's like kind of panicked. And I'm not trying to be glib, but I think from astrological perspective and a historical perspective, this country is right on track. We're exactly where we need to be. It's not fun, it's not easy, but it's where we're at, you know. And I
Hmm.
also suggest anybody who's interested in history, and I know Susan, you mentioned your one of your emails that politics will be included into your messaging.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I read the book White Trash, which is the untold story of race and class in America. It came out in 2016, right when Trump was elected, which is a little strange. But basically,
Interesting.
we don't get the government we want, we get the government we deserve. So the fact that this country was founded by basically what the British considered their waste people, and we're still functioning, it really, I think, will make
Interesting.
you
That's
feel
a
the
thought.
future.
That is a thought. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. So again, not trying to commandeer your show here. But then with my
You're not.
astrology, I've been feeling the call to talk about ancestral healing, especially for Americans that are of European descent, because the advent of Christianity, I believe, disconnected indigenous Europeans from their earth-based wisdom. So maturity is learning the difference between
Wait, I
Christ
got
and
to stop you
Christianity.
right there. I just got a huge chill and I'm getting a little overflow here with just tears. You have just hit on a sacred truth right there. And that is brilliant. Thank you for saying that. And that makes so much sense because the Europeans, the indigenous Europeans were pagans,
Mhm.
Celts and Picts and so forth, not just in England, but all over there were pagans. And yes, the Christian church was developed in uh, Rome, in the Roman Empire, and the pagans were like, converted or killed or whatever. Gosh, you're brilliant. You're brilliant. I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, please continue.
Yeah, so that's my I read Braiding Sweetgrass by Dr. Robin Wall Kimmerer last spring, and that's
What's
like
it
basically
called?
it's called Braiding Sweetgrass.
Braiding
Sweetgrass.
sweetgrass? Okay,
Yeah,
got
it's
it.
amazing. It came out in 2013. I'm really on the beach. Clearly, I'm very aware of what's going on popularly. But either way, basically she's like, I'm a Native American woman, and this is how we're all jacking up the environment. But it's not like punching you in the face. It's more of like, this is why you're wrong. So maybe you could stop doing that. It's very much like a guiding meditative book.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like,
Mm-hmm.
all my very wealthy CEO white man clients are lovely people, but they are so disconnected from the European heritage and they're so Christian, but they're like derping. They just can't even begin to understand why you would care about the environment. Like they mean well, but like they just don't get it. So I'm like, how can I really get through to them? Like the astrology thing is not working. And I'm like, oh, duh. Ancestral healing is like the big theme. So
So you have clients who are rich white men?
I do. I have a few. My
Wow.
partner is a sustainability consultant, basically converting Republican slash conservative Christian people that are well-meaning. They're well-meaning Christians, similar to what you described with your family, to care about the environment. But he views it from like the business standpoint, and they're like, yeah, it'll save money as well. And
It'll
you're like,
save
all
money
right.
and it'll make people buy more from you because you're doing this. Yeah.
Yeah, so they've gotten to that point. But I'm like, if only we could get the connection to the European lineage and like not be weird. So my thing is, how can we have a new era, a new earth, a new economy where we have spirituality. You can still be Christian. I like Jesus. And we just have the earth-based wisdom. We can have it all. We don't have to, we're not
Yeah.
being evil. It's not just witchcraft that's shady. So how can we be normal? How can we just normalize being
It's
normal?
white magic for white people. How
Hey,
about
that's
that? Tell them that. They'll be like, oh, for white people, yes, I'm in. None of those black people. That's right. So we
yeah,
need
right.
to.
So Native
And
Americans
then,
were like
come
really
over to the
opposite.
light side and then
Right.
we'll help you to love everybody like your Jesus said. Yeah,
Yeah, white magic for white people. But yeah, that's
that's
I can
beautiful.
imagine though, like living on the soil. I'm out in Western Maryland. Native Americans have been here for a few centuries, which is really upsetting. But I could see why Native Americans would be like, who are these people? They're coming off a boat, they're sickly, they don't have a relationship with the earth. Like, what the heck? I could see
Right.
why there's a cultural confusion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the same way that people say that cats think that we're just big dumb kittens that they have to feed and teach how to hunt and stuff. Yeah, it's like the Native Americans were like, what the who are you poor stupid people? And then they started killing them and giving them diseases, and the Native Americans were like, okay, we're done. We're not going to help you anymore. Y'all are destructive and stupid. So, and here we
Right, right.
are,
Yeah,
400
but
years
see, like,
later, we're still messing it all up. Okay, I'm going to stop there because this is a fantastic conversation. We could carry on for hours. I mean, I totally could talk to you for hours. It's fantastic. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to go
thanks
to
for
our
letting me
3x3 card readings. Yeah, you did great. I love it. Thank you for your contributions. Okay, Magical Mermaids and Dolphins. That's my favorite deck from Doreen Virtue. I've been using them for years and years and years. We're going to do what I call 3x3. So it's 3 deep breaths, shuffle 3 times, draw 3 cards. And I want you to follow along. I'll walk you through it. So 3 deep breaths is what I call the micro meditation. I usually will fold my hands like that and cross my ankles. So I'm crossing the midline. You can do this if you want to, whatever works for you. Take 3 deep breaths and focus on this thought, which is I call on my angels and guides, as well as all those who have my best interests at heart. One more time. I call on my angels and guides, as well as all those who have my best interests at heart. Okay. After that, we're going to shuffle the deck 3 times. So, ready? All right. I'm going to shuffle the deck 3 times. And while I'm doing that, y'all can finish your breathing. And I want you to imbue the deck with your greatest concern or worry right now. What do you need to know about, even if it's not a concern or a worry? What do you need to know? So concentrate on that. If you have too many and cannot choose just one, or if you can't think of anything, which is pretty rare, you can use the default question of what do I need to know right now? That's all there is to it. So focus on that while I shuffle the deck. All right. Now I'm going to cut the deck and deal out 3 cards face down. And I want you to think of 1, 2, or 3. Which card is yours? Don't give it a lot of thought, just whatever comes to mind. All right, I've cut the deck and dealing out 3 cards. All righty. Now then, I want to remind you that if you are witness to somebody else's reading of any kind, then that reading, if it resonates with you, that reading's for you too. So you are likely to get a good reading from one or both of the other cards as well. I just have you choose one so that you can get the feeling of going, oh, I chose the right card for me. Wow, I may have some intuition. Oh, I was listening to my guides. I got the number 2 in my head and now this is my card. All right. So if you chose card number 1, this is your card. Have faith. Your prayers are manifesting. Remain positive and follow your guidance. What's so cool here is that the immediate feeling I get with this is that the discoveries that are coming to you, the aha moments, big and small, the things that you're going, oh, I ought to do that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or what Melanie said in that made so much sense. I love that. Those are real and you can trust them. So that's the big thing about that is trust that what's coming to you is real. Okay. All right. That's card number 1. If you chose card number 2, this is your card. You are being helped. Heaven is working behind the scenes to help you, even if you don't see results yet. The main thing about this one is accepting heaven's help doesn't necessarily mean that it's your angel whispering in your ear. It means that there are people and things that are coming to you that you need to say yes, thank you. It's really about receiving and feeling your sense of worthiness, that you are worthy of receiving help. So practice not dismissing a compliment so that you can learn to receive that help that's coming in. Doesn't have anything to do with heaven, just has to do with all it is. All right. If you chose card number 3, you've got friendship. Make a date for a play day with one or more friends. I think one more than one friend would be good. I think it feels to me like you ought to go to the Galentine's Day event, or go out to your favorite venue, a coffee house or a pub or whatever it is that you like to do with your friends, where you like to gather. It could be online, but I'd really like to see you do something outside the house, which is interesting for me that I just got that, because I'm like, I never leave the house. I do everything online. So I think that's a good point. All right, so there you go. Those are your cards. I like to write them down and make note of them each week. Do you have any last questions or comments, either of you? Feel free to jump in and share. Okay, y'all are being quiet. In that case, I want to remind you to sign up for the free masterclass, 3 things you can do right now so you can help more people. And since it's not on the website, you're going to have to email me, mojomedium@gmail.com. Thank you, Melanie. She says, thank you for running Woo Wednesday. And it is literally my pleasure. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to those in the replay, watching in the replay. And I will see you next week. Now, remember, y'all fight nice.